Welcome, everybody, and thank you very much for taking time on your Monday night to join Cubbie and myself. And of course, we kicked John to the curb. Actually, I think you know what? I think John's too busy watching basketball.
Yes.
Cubbie wants to be doing that, but
Yes.
he's dedicated to the show. He's dedicated to making sure that it happens and that everything is good. And what's really weird is I'm on the YouTube page right now. And oh, there it goes. There it goes. I was getting a little scared there because it was like nothing was happening. And I was like, I hit the button. Or I hit the button. But anyway, so we do want to thank everybody for joining us and whether you're watching basketball, whether you're hanging with Cubby and myself or not, we do appreciate you. Cubby, how have you been?
Doing great, man. It was a fantastic Easter weekend. Went over to Chicago for my grandson's 3-year-old birthday. And like I said, it was a phenomenal time. It was a good time, Easter and birthday party, and just time away from home now. I'm just trying to hope that Iowa wins. Being that I'm from
So
Iowa. Yeah, everybody knows I'm from Iowa.
if you notice Cubby keeps going like this, his TV is like right there. So
It's
so
in my
we're gonna call him
office.
out every time the eyes glance off to the side.
And again,
Um,
just yeah, like last Monday, my wife's got suckers in her mouth, trying to be quiet. She's clapping quietly, you know.
oh good.
Yeah, so it's a big thing here in Iowa. Caitlin Clark is a beast, and I don't think we're gonna make it much further past. If we just make it past LSU, I'd be good. South Carolina is awesome. USC is awesome. We just don't have a whole lot of height, but I just really like to like avenge our loss from last year to LSU in the championship.
Now we'll talk basketball for a few moments here because everybody talks about South Carolina and yada yada yada, but it was just like the middle of last month where they about lost to somebody they should not have about lost to. I forget who it was that they played now. Um, but I remember like I just happened to be flipping and I was like, oh, like they're down and everything else. And then they came back and they did win it. I realized, okay, a win's a win, but they showed they're beatable. At least I mean they showed that they could be beatable.
And we are beatable as well. I mean, our record is 32-4, and they play if Caitlin Clark has an off night, or if she's having an off night and the other players don't pick her up, it's a really difficult game for us. So, but South Carolina is undefeated, and they are just incredible. They got some great heights, some great shooters, and some great ballers, and I really think they're going to take it all. My heart's with Iowa, but I don't think you bet with your head, and cheer with your heart. But I don't bet either. Just so you know, I'm not one of those guys that do sports betting. But you bet with your heart, and you bet with your head and cheer with your heart.
There you go. There you go. So while we're talking to that, do you think she should go to the big three or should she go WNBA?
She's got a lot of money through NIL, and I mean, I suppose we're gonna be talking finances tonight, and I think once you make a lot of money, you can only make so much. You can't really spend it all, I suppose, but I don't know. Maybe go to the big three because and WNBA will always be there. Big three may or may not. It could be like an XFL league or whatever. They don't make it. But I also saw a guy from Barstool Sports offered him $10 million to play in a recreational league. The guy that owns Barstool Sports.
Yeah. Yeah. Teach the own, I guess, in that aspect. I hadn't heard that one, but
That's
still,
an April. That was an April Fool's joke. Sorry.
oh, it was. Oh, I was like, I could have believed it. I thought somebody would have. I mean, I stranger things have happened when it comes to some of that stuff, especially something like that. Like I could see them kind of messing around and
Yeah.
somehow pulling that together. But all right, you got me. You
As
got me on that
They
one.
had me for a second too.
Well, tonight we are going to be talking about finances, as Cubby kind of alluded to it there. And this came about. I want to give some props to Jamie Bodie. Um, Cubby, you saw this posted, and I'm going to go ahead and share this on the screen now so everybody can see it. Jamie shared this graphic, and this graphic actually comes from Dave Ramsey, and it's his philosophy, right? The 7 baby steps to basically financial freedom, right? To making the best financial decisions. These are kind of the steps that you're going, and when you found it, you shared it with John and I as like, hey, this is kind of a great idea for your business, and John's kind of gut was like, no, like that's a great personal thing. But the more we stewed on it, the more I think with a few tweaks, this could be something that we follow through with for for our DJ side. So that's
Yeah,
where we're going with this tonight.
I think that's a dual purpose. I mean, you could apply these steps and to both your personal life as well as your business plan. And like I said, it's a great plan. It looks like it's a great lot of steps. We talked about my investments are only 10%, so I need to up mine by 5, I guess. But yeah, it's a great plan both for personal and as well as your business plan.
So we're gonna talk down through these, and my plan is for us to kind of tackle each of the 7 steps. And I know tonight's not going to be flashy gear and everything else like some of you might be wishing we're going to be talking about. But after seeing what Jamie posted and some people's response to that, as well as some other comments that have been on Facebook about kind of making it as a DJ, I think it's important for us to kind of talk through these. And so some of these we're going to be straight personal type of pieces, meaning it's not really going to have much DJ side, and others I think we can tweak and talk about from that other side. So step number 1, save $1,000 in a beginner emergency fund. My question to you, Cubbie, if you think about this for a business, is this really enough?
No, especially as a multi-op. I think for business, if you're single op, you should have at least $3,000 for the thinner months, possibly up to 5 if you can do it. If you're, it depends if you're working full time. Now there's some factors that go into this. Whether you're working a full time job and a part time DJ, then yeah, you could probably get away with a $3,000 emergency fund. If you are a full time DJ, you might want to up that to 5 to 6,000 to make you through some of the thinner months. But I also have another part of my business plan, and I think I've shared this with you before, is a 90-day payment and a 30-day payment for those thinner months. So contractually, I have a 90-day payment that half the current balance is due 90 days prior to the event, and then 30 days before the event, the balance is due. And what that helps me is with in December and January, when it's, I'm doing corporate events and there maybe not as much as weddings, I have those 90-day payments coming in for March and April. And that helps me get through that month, those thinner month. And then the 30-day payment ends up helping me pay my DJ at the very end. So I would look at raising those, and especially if you're a multi-op, make sure you go just a little bit higher than that, maybe 5 to 6,000.
Yeah, those emergencies, especially as you alluded to, if you're a multi-op, it's not just your emergencies that you're kind of worrying about. It's also those that are working for you. And I also think that it needs to be higher than $1,000. I think if you're talking about just taking care of your household expenses of emergencies, I think $1,000 really isn't that bad, right? Like I think that's a good fair estimate. Like you'll notice that when we get down a little bit further, it talks about saving more than that, right? You're not just doing $1,000, you're doing more than that. But just right off the bat, getting $1,000 in the bank, I think I said 2,000. And you went a lot higher than that, and you kind of went a little bit deeper. But I'm thinking like if you want to have just something until you can put all the other pieces in place, $2,000 is going to cover controller that could go down. It's going to cover a single speaker that could go down. Computer, you're not doing your high end specialty MacBook, Pro there, but you could get a decent Windows computer that's going to be powerful enough to run your system for under $2,000. So I think when you think about it that way, again, this is this idea of just a kind of single, God forbid, emergency that I have to get through the night. Those are some of your big key 3 things, right? Your controller, your computer, and a speaker. And so 2,000 each. Hopefully, you're not looking at all 3 of them in one instance. That could be
Right.
that could be a whole other
You got
different
some
problem.
bad luck. Yeah, you have some
Yeah,
really bad luck if that happens. On a
yeah,
personal note, like I said, I do believe 2,000 is maybe a little bit of a better, because if you have a transmission go out, if your tire, you need new tires or something medically emergency, there's hardly anything that's $1,000 anymore. So I would probably bump that up just a little bit. Start at 1,000, and then challenge yourself to get up to 2,000. Definitely, it's that first 1,000 you got to save. That's hard for a lot of people.
yeah, definitely. And that's where I think some of the people are going to be watching this and paying attention and going like, how am I ever going to get there? Right? Like I'm scraping by from paycheck to paycheck, how am I ever going to be able to just instantly take $1,000 and throw it into, or 2,000 and throw it into a separate account and just not touch it? It takes some diligence. It takes some diligence. And we're going to talk about at the end kind of some keys to making all this happen. Right now we're just kind of working through the steps, but I think at the end I want to break down at least some of these key pieces to the logical steps to actually make some of this happen for you. So step number 2 here, according to this plan, is to pay off all of your debt. And I think right now, I think that's key. I am a person that I don't believe in carrying debt. I hate it. I hate having to do it when I've had it in my life. I haven't been able to pay off my house yet, and that bothers me, right? It's logical that I haven't paid off my house yet, right? And there's a lot of people financially that would say, don't pay off your house. Take the money that you're spending to pay down your house faster and invest it. I come from my father's sense. I get my father's money sense, which is like, if you've got debt, that's where your money goes, right? It doesn't matter what is, that's where you put the money for. And just pay that house and get it taken care of. Or if you've got a car, pay it off. I also heard somebody one time who gave some financial sense when it comes to buying a car. Like, if you can't buy it with cash, then you need to rethink buying the car, because you are not going to ever sell it for more than what you bought it for. Unless, it's antique and that's a classic car. That's a little different situation. But a normal car that you're going to be driving around, that's not the type of vehicle that's suddenly going to make you money. So the second you buy it, it's less. And so by taking a loan on that, you're just kind of prolonging the problem to it. Where if you can pay it off when you buy it with cash, or, write a check type of idea, it's going to be good. What do you think? Am I completely off base with my thinking there, or?
No, it's the interest rate, especially the interest rates with the credit cards are going with the federal interest rates that haven't been dropping anytime soon and just kind of maintaining where they are. You definitely do not want to carry any debt. I understand if you do, shit happens. Like I said, if you do have an emergency and you didn't have that $1,000 emergency fund or $2,000 emergency fund and you had to throw it on a card. But before all your purchases, is it a want or is it a need? And that's what we used to do with us. Is it a want or is it a need? And if it's a need, then by all means you should get it, talking clothes and things of that nature. If it's a want, well, wait till you have that money. Cars are made nowadays to last over 200,000 miles, excuse me, not thousand. I don't have that kind of car. But cars are made to, I know there's more problems after 100,000 miles. But they're really, if you continue your maintenance and changing the oil and changing all your fluids and everything and upkeep with that, those cars will literally go 200,000 miles. And you don't always have to have the newest and the hottest car with that big debt. I know a lady that I work with that I do trivia with. Her car payment is $1,100 a month. She got a brand new 2024 Tahoe, fully loaded. Literally, her payment. I was like, and what everybody thinks about is like, oh, $1,100, I can afford that. But that's now. But what's going to happen in 3 years? What if she loses her job? She's a school teacher, so I don't think she's going to lose her job. But you never know what life is going to throw at you 3 years from now. You never know what life's going to throw from you in 2 years from now. And can you pay that $1,100? I had a friend several years ago, got a brand new car, lost his job, didn't get hired for 9 months. And he had a large car payment. At the time that he got that car payment, it was easy peasy. He had a great corporate job, ended up losing that corporate job, took him a while to find a job, and that became a burden for him. And so don't think at the short term, think of what could happen to you with that payment, especially if it's a 7-year note. And I think hers was a 7-year note. Imagine that. It's crazy. Just crazy.
And I think, some of that some of that bothers me from two standpoints, but that was more than my mortgage on my first house.
Yep.
And it's pretty darn close to the mortgage on the house I have now. Like that kind of thing, it baffles me that, I don't know. I guess I take this back in a certain instance. If you're the type of profession or whatever, and I know that's not necessarily where we're talking tonight, but if you're the type of profession where you're driving a lot, where you're in your car a lot, like I get the idea of having something luxurious because you're spending a lot of time in it. You want to be comfortable. You want to have the bells and whistles. But for majority of us, we're running around town. We're driving 10, 15 miles in one trip, and then that's it, right? Like, how luxurious do you need it if it's going to put you into a debt type of situation? If it's going to put you into a situation where you're spending, because here's the other thing, right? $1,100, that's what they get you on. That's how the monthly payment is. And oh, yes, I can afford that. And oh, the car, when we give you the deal off the lot, it's really this. Don't forget about that figure that's at the end that says how much it is after you've been paying on it for the entirety of that loan. And that's the one that always should be the sticker shock for you, because that's the one that's, in my viewpoint, just absolutely crazy, that you're going to be spending, 100,000, $150,000 on this car that you thought was only going to cost you like 70, which is still insane. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one, because I could talk about paying off debt all night long, just because that's the way.
Yes.
I don't agree with it, right? Like, I've taken out car loans. Don't get me wrong. Like, I say the idea about paying off, with cash, and I understand, like, that's a big purchase, and especially the car's prices keep going through the roof. So you may not ever be able to have enough set aside to pay it off with cash. I'm just talking ideal situations where it'd be best. So the next one kind of continues off of step one, right? So step number one again was to save that 1,000. And we said, scratch that for the DJ purposes. Let's make it 2,000. But now we're talking about saving 3 to 6 months of expenses for the emergencies. And I think this, Cubbie, was where you were talking about earlier about the $5,000 to $6,000 a month. I think this is really where this comes into play, right? Because as DJs, this is our income, right? If suddenly we go belly up, there's not a lot to pull from, right? It's not the same type of thing as, or if it's a slow month or a slow couple months, right? It's a little different. I'm going to digress for this. I'm going to kind of go in a slightly different realm for this for just a second with you, Cubbie. Have you noticed the what I want to say, the leads that you're getting shifting a little bit? And what I mean by this is 10 years ago, it seemed like 6 months out, 9 months out, that's when I was getting my inquiries for my weddings, right? Then 5, 6 years ago, it started moving up, and I was getting things like a year and a half sometimes. And then coming out of COVID, when people were like kind of bumping everything around because of that, I was getting it almost up to 2 years in advance. Now I'm still getting some, but I'm getting more kind of transitioning back to that year, maybe between year and 9 months. Like, I got an inquiry today for October, and I'm like, that's in 6 months of a month that's extremely booked usually. Like, have you noticed the leads are kind of shifting again?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, and also I think it's the type of personality the bride is. I mean, you got your A-type personalities that are super planners, and so they're booking and they're following other people's leads, and it's depending on who's advising them. Is it a older sister who got married during COVID that had to crunch really, so they booked farther out, so they're securing all their vendors? Are they talking to venues, and venues like, get the DJ and photographer right after the venue, because caterers and florists and cake ladies can do multiple events in a day, but DJs and photographers are certain personalities that book up quickly. So I find out both, but I did just book one May 3rd, which is, I mean, like, yeah, right. And so, and it was, they just weren't planners, and they're just trying to throw everything together at the last minute. I think it also, a lot of it depends on the bride, but yeah, and we're all over the place. Once again, I say this because I'm the oldest. I keep saying this over and over again. We're the oldest fish in the pond. I've been doing this in my area for 18 years. I'm sure, like, some of the other people in our industry, that like Jim Cerrone and Mike Walter, if they want Mike, they got to book Mike really far out, or Joe, or, you know what I'm saying? They got to book that personality really far out, or Nick Spinelli. And so those guys get booked out further out, and then their DJs that work in the company, they can pick up events, the May 3rd events that come in quickly, we're kind of the same way. We've got a few DJs that are super popular, and they get booked out quickly. and then we have some, that will pick up the leads that come in a little later. So we're like you, we're all over the place. Get them far out, and we get them short term as well.
And one of the reasons why I kind of went there was this 3 to 6 months worth of expenses for emergencies, right? Like, so if you're typically using your retainer fees and the types of those types of payments to maybe get you through some of those winter months, right? Because as Cubbie alluded to with the 90 days out and the 30 days out that he has set up, that's great. But that still leaves December, January, depending upon what you got coming in, maybe corporate wise or otherwise, to maybe be a little bit lean. And now, if you have couples that typically would be engagement season, now kind of pushing it a little bit and waiting a little bit, now some of those lean months might become a little bit leaner just because you're used to one thing and the couples that are coming in are not doing things the same way. So I think it's important for you to have those 3 to 6 months. I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm actually going to go a little bit further. I would encourage you, because of what we just saw 4 years ago, to try and get that rather than 3 to 6 months, get it to 6 to 9 months.
Yes.
I mean, think about what your area did, and you could even kind of go a little bit further with this, but think about what your area did in response to COVID, where they shut down for 2 months and then open back up, and then maybe shut down for a month and then open back up, or did they stay down for 9 months? Like there's certain states that had different kind of outlooks on what they did, and those outlooks made a huge impact on our industry. And because there were, like I said, there was some of us that, like, I was shut down for March, April, May. By July, I was able to do a wedding. I want to say I even did an event the end of June, but I was able to do like June, July. I had friends of mine in other states, and I can't remember the state in particular of the friend that dealt with this. They were almost the full year. So recognizing that those expenses are going to be there. And yes, there was things that were put in place to kind of help us so that we didn't go belly up, but who knows what's down the road? Who knows what's down the road? So setting that stuff up so your business can survive through those expenses, through that non-income time period, is going to be key.
And
All right.
if you did step two, you wouldn't have all that problem because now your emergency money you can live on because you have no step two. This is how it's
Right.
all working together.
Exactly. Exactly. And exactly, that's key. Like the less debt you carry, the less expenses that you're going to have, right? There's going to be some expenses you just can't ignore or do away with. But if you've got debt, then that means either you're going to hand back whatever it is that you borrowed, uh, you know, purchase wise or whatever, or you're going to be struggling. So before we get to step number 4 here, I do want to kind of get a little note here. If you're watching on YouTube, or sorry, if you're watching on Facebook, or you're anywhere else that this is being broadcast to, because John has this set up and I just click the button and it goes to like 30,000 places, it feels like. Make sure you're over on YouTube, youtube.com/disc jockey news. That is where I'm at. That is the chat that I'm watching. So if you're throwing it someplace else and I'm ignoring it, it's because I'm not seeing it. So if you want to chat, if you want to throw something up there, again, go to YouTube and a Disc Jockey News spot on there. Okay. So step number 4, did they win yet? Oh, come on. The
We
game's
are
over.
52
Just
seconds,
the
90 to
game's over.
79. No,
You can relax now.
it is, but I still love to watch Kim Mulkey get fired up. So
Oh, that's fine. You can let her get fired up. She lost. All right. So step number 4. Step number 4, and this is one that you said, that you do. Investing 15% of your income for retirement. So many people that I know, not just DJs, but in general, have no retirement plan. Their thought is, I'm going to get to 65 and I'm going to retire. Or I'm going to DJ until I'm dead. While I think that is a admirable quality to have, is that you enjoy this career so much that you want to do it until you keel over. I think it's important to recognize 2 pieces to that. One, just because you want to doesn't mean they are going to want you to. And two, who's going to take care of them? The couples or whatever. Let's assume for a second you keep getting those events. Who's going to take care of them when you are no longer alive? Um, I just that's it's one thing I think, I struggle with number four because I haven't completed number two in my viewpoint. Right. I'm still paying off my house. So I struggle with the whole saving a certain percentage for investment in or for investing, right? I don't like playing the stock market. That's that I don't like even doing bonds necessarily. And that is just kind of a weird thing. But I would say at the very least, if you're kind of like me and you're just kind of like, I just don't like that idea. At the very least, find some high interest savings accounts. There are some high interest savings accounts that are very popular right now, that you can go to a bank, some banks, and they will offer them, and you can get 4 or 5% off a savings account without any risk whatsoever, other than putting your money in that bank, and it's protected, not going to go down. It's a guaranteed money. It's not going to give you the returns that you might get some other place. But what made you, Cubbie? What made you decide to start investing? Because even in the corporate world, it's not necessarily a given that you're going to put money into a 401k or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't do 401k because that's just too far to run. I'm just kidding. Stupid joke.
So,
And you don't have to. I appreciate your safe investing. But you can go to an Edwards Jones or any financial advisor, and they have different portfolios that you can put your money into. You can put your money into a safe return investment, which are a margin are just marginally going to go up very slowly. You can go, and this is depending on, let me backtrack a little bit. This is on depending on how old you are and how much money you want to have when you retire. So the younger you are, the earlier you start, you can maybe not invest as much as 15%, or depending what you have in it. But if you go to a financial advisor, they have different packages or portfolios that you can invest in that give you a little bit more return money on than a CD or a savings account. But you're still playing the market, but there's slow returns. I mean, there's slower, and they'll move your money if something starts to go bad before you automatically go, hey, look, we think this is the best revenue for you. And then the mid-level one is a little bit more aggressive. And those are the ones still making good returns, but they can get volatile or lose. But you get a micro, and again, they'll pull it out. They start to see it goes down. These investors will for you. You don't have to do it on your own. You can actually go to Edward Jones or any type. That's who I use. I keep saying it over and over again. And then the last one is a very aggressive. I mean, it is stocks and bonds that are going to leap really far, then pull out. You know what I'm saying? So, but you can also lose very quickly as well. So, depending on where you're at in your investment, if you're younger, you can go the slow route, the slow and go. The small, the marginal one, or maybe do a middle one. Maybe put 50% in a small and put 50% in a marginal of whatever you're investing, so you're not going aggressive all the time and lose everything. Um, but that's where you want to talk to a professional and not me. So, I just that's what I have learned through my investments is I did the slow and go because I always want to see some sort of return. And then I did the middle, which has a little bit of aggressive, but not super aggressive like the higher package, with the stocks that just jump all the time. But they will generally take care of you for doing that for you, and you can just watch it.
that's helpful. That is extremely helpful. Like, make sure you're talking to them, and you don't have to just automatically go with whoever you like reach out to. That was one of the things that I think that, for lack of better terms, kind of burned me. The first group that I invested um, with my day job, I was like, well, that I need to do this. So I went up and I was like, all right, we need to sit down. And we need to do this, and we did it. And then the person basically just disappeared. Like my account was still there and it was still, money going into it and it was still doing what it was supposed to do, but there was no check-in. There was no, hey, do you might want to do some more? Or where are you at now? And it was one of those things that I realized just like, okay, this was the wrong person. So we got things switched over to somebody else and that helped. It was the same company. It was just somebody else that was like a little bit more hands-on and able to help, because the other thing is I didn't know what I didn't know. And And that was one of the things that this type of thing can help you. But saving retirement is a good idea, because again, at some point, what we're doing is going to run out, right?
Yeah.
And you may decide, now when you're 25, that listen, I'm going to do this forever. I love this job. And then you're going to get to 65 and you're going to go, you know what? It's been really fun. It's been an awesome career. But now I don't want to do it every weekend. I want to do it like once a month. I want to do it 4 times a year for people that I really, really like. I want to do it from my basement. I don't care if I get paid or not. Whatever might be the case, if you haven't set that up for retirement, you don't get to retire. You don't get to retire. And so the advice here is 15%. Again, talk to a financial planner. They will help you determine how much you really need to set aside based upon how much you want to have at the end and your age and all that kind of stuff. But that's just a general rule that they put here. Okay. Step number 5, save for college for your kids. Now, I went a different route with this because, again, this is about DJing. We're just using these tips and kind of applying it to our business. How about save for the ability to go to multi-op or to add multi-op people, right? If you're a single op, at some point along the path, you may decide that you want to be a multi-op. Cubbie, when you decide to step into that, it wasn't something you just kind of snapped your fingers and, now you had more money coming in, right? Like there's a process to make this happen. There's a financial, uphill battle, if you will, at least to get it to go the way that you want it to go. Correct?
Yes. So when I started out, I started realizing that I was passing on events that I was already booked for. I'm like, God, I'm just leaving money on the table. I mean, all these people want what we provide, but I just don't have enough people to get them. So that's when I started looking and finding somebody that I could trust. I probably trained him. I trained him for a year. I still do before I put him out on their first event. I just don't think it's fair to a bride to take him out to like 4 events and go, okay, here's your DJ. He only has 4 event experience. So my investment was, or my save for college, or save for my DJ company, is I provided my second system was my backup equipment. When I hired somebody, they started then using all of my backup equipment because I've always got backup equipment as we all should. A backup controller, a backup speaker, backup microphone, backup cords. We should at least have a somewhat of a second system ready to go in case something happens to our current stuff. So then when I brought in that second DJ, I scrambled to buy additional backup equipment. So then when I started having more backup equipment, and maybe they didn't get those Evolve 50s, maybe they got the Evolve ZTXs because, when I went from the ZTXs, I went to the Evolves. So then they went out and had to put them on the poles themselves, type thing. So as long as you have continued to have your backup equipment, you can always find a DJ to do it. And then when you bring that DJ in, you take that income that he's making and you buy additional backup equipment. Now, when that extra person comes along that you're ready to train, you've got a third system for him, and then you scramble again to buy backup equipment. It's a never ending circle. That's the way I did it. I'm not saying it was right. You do you, but that's what I did. Is my newest DJ always took my backup equipment or just slightly older equipment. It wasn't bad. It was just slightly older, just wasn't the newest. And as I got the newest stuff, then the slightly older would go back into reserve type thing. So that's what I did.
And I think that's key. But if you had been forward kind of thinking about bringing this person on and you had saved and put the money into a pot that would have been classified as this is going to buy the system for the new person that comes on board, whether it be a used system or whether it be to buy that new backup, however you might view, there wouldn't need to be, in theory, as much of a scramble with that. So that was kind of my thought here is, okay, we're not obviously sending our kid off to college, right? It may be a DJ college of sorts, if you want to think about it that way, but just the idea of setting that money aside to be able to use for multi-op, I think it becomes key, right? Just having that ready to go should you decide to go down that route. Or, it could be what you're going to use for a new backup if for some reason you suddenly need to find yourself in that situation and you've got it there. ready to go. Also, Cubbie's even mentioned a few different times, like one of the things he's very particular about with his business is, all of his, you mentioned about using the backup, but you've also said that all of your DJs that go out for weddings are using the same equipment, right?
Yes.
They've all got the Evolve 50s. They've all got, the Danny Mac stands. They've all got like all these pieces. So that becomes a key piece, right? If your brand is, we look this way, then you need to make sure that you've got something set aside to be able to make sure that first time that DJ goes out, it is this way. And it could be what you decide, during that training time, if you do something like Cubbie said with a year, I mean, a year might give you plenty of time to be able to set aside a little bit out of each event to get, put that extra system in place. But it's just some thoughts with that. All right.
And this took a while to get to. Honestly, this does not happen overnight. It I made a lot of mistakes, and it wasn't until within the last 3 years that we all got consistent, because we all had the same speakers and we all had the same different tabletops. I don't know. It's just literally been the same. Yeah, I saw you look. We won, John. I mean, Dan, I'm sorry. We won.
John.
I know, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
shame on you. Anyway, so step number 6, pay off the house. I tweaked this just a little bit to say pay off the warehouse. Now, keep in mind, each of these different things go into kind of steps, right? Step number 2 says pay off all the debt except the house. Step 6 is pay out the house. So the idea is after you've mastered each of these different steps, then you get to the last one. So my thought was, though, this kind of becomes part of that eliminating the debt piece and paying off the warehouse, right? That's my kind of thought, right? Where are you storing your gear? Where are you storing what you have? Make sure again that you're not holding on to debt for this piece. Now you might be renting, so that's a little different situation, obviously. But if it's something you're buying, it might be a good idea again to pay as much off as you can of that warehouse place. So I don't know if this applies to many of us. I don't have a warehouse. I've got a basement with a room that's like right over like I can point at my gear, right? Did you
Just
just
trying to look.
Did you just try and look at my gear?
I was trying to look.
I
I see
saw.
if you're wearing
It's
pants
kind of,
too.
well, that's listen, there's a reason why we do this on Zoom. Down, it's all party. Uh But no, I think that that's a key piece. And the
Yeah.
idea kind of also along that same lines is if you're able to eliminate some of this debt, it does give you the ability for growth. It does give you the ability to look at that bigger space that you might decide that you're going to use. How much nicer would it be to be able to have that office with the warehouse kind of attached to it? And again, it wouldn't have to be huge, but it beats maybe doing something out of your basement on depending upon what you have.
And if you buy a warehouse, that is a step forward, because that is an investment now, because property's only going up. Houses are going up, rental properties are going up. So if you can stop renting, and once you got your step 6, quote unquote, if you're using the saving baby steps for personal as well as DJ business, once you pay off your house, you can turn around and either invest that more or go buy a property for a warehouse, because that's only going to be a bigger investment for when you do retire. There's $100,000, $150,000 sold off of a warehouse.
But just be careful, right? Be careful. You don't need the $1 million warehouse that's 50 million square feet just because like, hey, it was for sale. Why not?
And
Um,
and again, that affected a lot of people during COVID when those payments were not coming in. And when I talked about the car situation where, yeah, you can do it now, but what happens in 2 years or 3 years? Yeah, be careful of overextension. So that's why you want to make sure your personal house is maybe paid off if you use the 7 baby steps personally as well as business wise, to not overextend yourself. Because that happened to a lot of friends of mine, lots of friends of
oh
mine,
yeah.
during COVID.
I mean, the one thing that's, for lack of better terms, kind of, and I don't want to say nice in that situation because you never want to like lose out on something, right? But in those situations, it was not where people were living. It was where they were storing their stuff. And so you do have the ability to then turn around, hopefully, and try and sell it. But at a time where things were not moving for anything, that's, that there were certain obstacles there that may have created a problem. But in a general situation, it is an investment, and it does have the ability that if you decide that you need to get out from under it because of whatever, you can do that. So let's do step 7, and then I want to talk about some tips here. And we are almost at the end. It's kind of crazy here, but
Wow.
so step number 7 says build wealth and give. And I'm going to add one extra word to that, and that is back. I don't know if it's my video that played last week or if it's coming up this week. I forget, because I don't like to watch the videos that I post. I just record them and I send them to John, and he and Michael take care of them and then put them up for me. But I'm a big believer in giving back. I'm a big believer in doing what you're doing and helping others with it. And there are some people who will give back for their own reasons. And what I mean by that is, what can it make me? What can I get out of it? And I don't think that needs to be the best course of action with it. I don't think that is the best way to look at it. And I think it's really kind of selfish in the end result. But when you've mastered the first 6 or gotten as close as you possibly can, 7 really opens up the door for you, because it allows you to do a charity event. It allows you to meet with, and help a group. Saturday morning, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to do this event, or I'm going to give up this Saturday wedding and I'm going to do this gala for somebody else. And I'm going to do it because I believe in the cause. And I'll tell you what, when you do it because you believe in the cause, you put a lot more effort into it than you do it because, oh, another nonprofit hit me up. Well, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll do this one. If you believe in the cause, you're going to put more effort into it. And if you put more effort into it, those are the events that are going to turn around and you're going to get something from it. Right. I've had some DJs, they go, oh, well, I'm going to do this charity event because I think it's going to turn around and it's going to give me some events, or they're going to promise me all this publicity and it's going to give me these events. And if you go in with that mindset, it may or may not. But if you go in because you believe in the cause, you go in because you believe in what's happening, that's the ones that are going to turn around for you every time, every time. Is there anything that you do for giving back?
Oh my gosh, yes. So, ever since I was a baseball mascot, I used to work with the Children's Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and 2 times a year they have a camp. The very first camp is called Oncology Camp, and those are the kids that were strictly that may still be battling cancer, maybe not battling cancer, maybe they beat it and they're in remission. And then the second camp is Sibling Camp, and those are kids whose brothers or sisters are battling cancer. Maybe they've lost their brother or sister to cancer, but they still get to come to the camp. And they're very special weeks. They're amazing weeks. And I go in on Monday and we do bingo and trivia, and I go out through the week, and sometimes I provide all the audio support at the camp. It's a Y camp that they get. It does not cost anything for their parents to send them this camp. It is a totally free camp for their families. Um, but over the last 17 years, I've built so many friendships and kids, and done wedding of campers, and uh yeah, believe in the cause. Believe in the cause.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's the 7 steps, right? And again, I tried to turn this around in some aspects to relate to DJing, and some of it obviously was a little bit easier to do that with, and some of them may have been a bit of a stretch, and some of you are going like, what on earth was
What
this
show did I
stuff?
tune in tonight?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I think it's important for us to kind of talk about this next piece. And this is we don't need the graphic for that, but how do we make any of this happen? And this is where I think is a lot of DJs fall short. They go, those are great steps, but I can't make that happen. I can't set aside $1,000 just out of nowhere. I can't save for 3 to 6 months. I'm barely able to save for a month. Like I can't do those things. And there's one or two pieces that I'm gonna suggest to you in order to make this happen. Everybody talks about, oh, you need to raise your rates, you need to raise your rates, you need to raise your rates. But I think a lot of people don't talk about the why. Or the only why you hear is because, well, you're bringing down the industry if you don't. Or you're considered a low baller if you don't. And whether those things are true or not is not the point of this conversation tonight. But you need to raise your rates because you need to make an affordable living, right? If you can't save more than a month's worth of an emergency fund, then you're not treating this like a business. And maybe if that's the case, maybe this needs to become a hobby and you get a job that is a business, right? And I don't mean like you start a business, like you go work someplace and it allows you to treat this like a hobby and be a different aspect with it. But go through your expenses, figure out what they are. And this is going to be the key to kind of figuring out, like I said, raise your rates. And somebody like, well, do I do it $100? Do I do it $300? What do I need to do? Go through your expenses for a year. Figure out what that is. Okay. Take an average year of your events. Take an average, not a high, not necessarily a low. Take an average year and be honest with yourself and split those expenses among those. Now, that amount is what you need to charge to make $0. If you charge only that, you will be breaking even. You won't know anything. You won't make anything unless you get some more events. Then figure out, okay, how much do I want to make profit-wise? How much do I want to have at the end of the year for my put away money, for my investing, for my profit, to go on a family vacation, to cover my living expenses, right? And those could be lumped into the first ones, but maybe not. Maybe you just only do your business ones. Now, split that among the two, or among your average number of events, add that to the first total. Then look at some of the other 7 steps that maybe we didn't get, or that we talked about, but that I haven't figured into your numbers yet. Again, divide them, add that to. That needs to be what you're charging. That needs to be what you're charging. And then you need to figure out 2 things. If your area doesn't want to support that figure, then you've got to make the hard decision. Do I keep doing this, or do I make it a hobby and I work at something else so that it affords me just to kind of be a little more lax with my money and what I'm charging? Or you put the hustle in to make it so that you can do that and charge whatever that said figure is. But I think too many of us, we go in and we go, well, I'm just going to charge this. And you never put thought of what it really boils down to. What is it that you're really spending? What are you spending, right? To be able to be in business. And then how much do you need to make? And there's profit first, which is another idea out there, right? Making sure that you're paying yourself before you're paying for your expenses, right? You need to be able to have the money that you're living off of before you go anywhere else. I'm going to forget. John brought up another one that I was going to mention here. If I can find it real quick. Okay, yeah. So basically, it was kind of a similar idea to the plan that I just mentioned, which, if you're doing it right and you come back and you say my expenses for each show that I do, each event that I do is $500, then you shouldn't be going out for less than $500. Whether that's a birthday party or whether that's a wedding, right? If it's going to cost you that much, then you shouldn't be charging less than that. So I know I went on a kind of a soapbox there for a second and you didn't knock me off. So anything
No,
you
I
were to
think
allude or do different with that?
no, I think a lot of people go into this as a great part-time job without a business plan. and don't realize that this is a phenomenal industry that we work in, and we're going to make people's dreams and lives happen every week. But make it a business. I'll make it. Don't do it just because, but make it a business, and you'll be successful.
Nice. All right. Well, we are at that time already. It is
Dang.
crazy to say. It is crazy to say for sure. But coming up next, do want to let you know Hanging with Howie is going to be on at djntv.com/chill. That is where you're going to want to go and head over to. Howie and the gang will be chatting. I don't know what their topic is tonight, but make sure that you kind of go and you can watch and see what they're doing. And then when they're done, they'll turn off the recording and you can join in and just kind of hang out. It's that hallway talk type of philosophy going on. Then on Tuesday night, we have Michael Schaefer of 732 Events and Design will be on with Big Daddy on the Big Daddy Show at 9 o'clock. Then we've got Optimizing Your Wedding Dance Floor Lighting Game, which is going to be on Tuesday night with Ben Stowe at 9:30. And then 10 o'clock, back again in the chill room, will be the Tuesday night music show. And then Wednesday night here on the YouTube channel will be the airing of tonight's Hanging with Howie and tomorrow night's Tuesday night music show. So that is what's coming up. That is what you have to look forward to. That's the places you need to be. That is what you're going to have. And make sure anytime you get an opportunity, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps us out. So anything else you want to add for tonight or in general, Cubbie? Other than
No,
go Iowa.
go Hawks. Yeah.
I beat you
You
to it.
got me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder on that one. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, I know it wasn't all laughter and bells and whistles and all the kind of fun stuff that we like to hear, but it is kind of the nuts and bolts of our business and what we have to think about because again, it is a business if you want to be able to survive in it and make it a go. So
Yeah. If we make that business plan, we can buy the toys that we want with the gear that we talk about. You'll have all the extra money because you've paid off all your debt. And so then you can buy it outright. That's the cool part about it.
there you go. There you go.